Hello everyone, what is up? Welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Sarah. Also Sarah's Faves on Instagram, which I always have linked below. And today we are doing a sit down chat video. I posted out my stories, which I'll put here, and I also posted a TikTok of it as well. But I wanted to do like a finance and budgeting Q&A with me. So I had you all submit your questions. Lots of questions, of course, came through about this topic. I feel like people, anytime I post about budgeting or finance or like my relationship with money or anything like that, I do get a lot of DMs, a lot of questions and stuff like that. So we are gonna answer as many as we can today. Obviously, if you have any other questions, you can leave them below. And then I did just shower and I'm trying not to put heat on my hair. So I did not blow dry my hair, but it is clean. And I have just moisturizer on my face, no makeup. It's a Saturday. You'll be seeing this tomorrow on Sunday. I don't like to put makeup on if I don't have to. Like, I'm not one of those people that wants to put makeup on and really likes to do that. I know there's so many people that do, and that's amazing, like great, but I am just not that person. I think the biggest reason is because I just don't want to have to take it off at the end of the day. So no makeup on, just clean face. I am recently using the Peach and Lily Matcha Moisturizer. I literally got it this morning at Target. It's very good. I really like it. So I put that on, and then behind me I have a Poppy. So we have the orange Poppy. Not my favorite flavor, to be honest, for prebiotic sodas. Hold on. If you like orange soda, I think you would like it, but I just don't even really prefer like Fanta, so that's probably why. But my order of prebiotic sodas is Culture Pop. It's like way up here. That's my favorite. You can find it at Whole Foods, most places. Poppy is second, and then Olipop is third. I just don't really love Olipop, but I got the Poppy 15 pack at Costco because I had it yesterday. So it came with the orange, strawberry, lemon, and cherry lime. So I feel like the cherry lime honestly is really good with tart cherry juice before bed. And this morning, the reason I went to Target was to make these tart cherry juice ice cubes with lime juice, ginger, and rosemary, because rosemary also helps with sleep. And I do get like really insane deep and REM sleep when I do drink like 2 sips of tart cherry juice before bed. But anywho, that's besides the point. Let's get down to the budgeting, the finance, the questions that y'all have for me, and I'm super, and I'm super excited to film this video just because I know that a lot of people have been asking for it. So let's get into it. Okay, so before we start on the questions, I wanted to just talk through my story with budgeting, my story with money, my story with finances, everything like that. So at one point, it was 2019, I believe. No, 2020 actually. So it was during COVID. It was, I think, like the fall or summer to fall of COVID. So August to September. And I was at a really bad place with money in the sense that I maybe had $2,000 to my name. So like in my checking account, in my savings account, I did have, the only asset I had at the time was my Roth IRA through Vanguard. So I had a Roth IRA, I think at the time it had like $6,000 in it maybe. So total my net worth, so to speak, was like $10,000. And at the time, the person who I was dating was really motivated by finances and money and looked me in the eye and was like, I can't be with someone who, you know, doesn't want to care or doesn't care about their finances, doesn't check their bank account, doesn't care about the money they spend, impulse spends, all of that sort of stuff. And obviously I'm not with that person anymore for other reasons, and I'm in a different relationship. You all know, if you've watched my channel, I live with my boyfriend now, Billy. He's amazing. He is the best. But this was at that time in fall of 2020. Maybe it was 2019. I don't know. Whatever. Whenever it was, that happened. And in the moment, I was like, okay, well, I clearly need to get my finances in check, if not for this person, for myself. And it was a real awakening for me. I had tried using YNAB, which is what I'll talk about today, the budgeting platform that I use. It stands for You Need a Budget. It is incredible. I'll talk about it more, but I had tried to use it because my brother still to this day uses it, and he found it beforehand. He tried to get me to use it earlier in that year. I tried, I failed. I didn't use it. And then this time around I was like, okay, I'll talk to my brother, I'll meet with him, I'll get on board, I'll use it. And to this day, I still use YNAB. So it has changed my life. I think the biggest thing is that I went from a place of being so financially stressed out about spending money, what I had in my bank account, to the point that I almost just like never checked what I had in my bank account. So I would never even like look at it. I would just kind of like put my debit card down, and same thing, I wasn't really using credit cards. I was mostly using debit cards, which now I know, like, utilize your credit card as much as you can. Not obviously to a certain percentage, but utilize it as much as you can for the points, for the benefit, all that stuff. So I couldn't even look at anything, and that was the time I decided to make a change and go to YNAB. And like I said, I have been with YNAB and using their budgeting platform ever since, but there are a lot of other things that had to change to like get me to where I am today. But that is just like the long and short of my story with money, finances, budgeting. I had never budgeted in the past, and I was like, this is a wake-up call. If I ever want to like buy a home, sustain myself and like my expenses, have kids, send my kids to college, I need to have a good grasp on my money and what it's doing for me and where it's going. So that was the wake-up call that I needed. So that is more or less like my story with budgeting and with my money. I changed the lighting in here. I just felt like it was like a little too bright, so I closed the blinds a bit. My face and the wallpaper behind me were like the same color, and they probably still are. So that is my story with budgeting. And I will show you the app. So I'll show you YNAB quickly just so you can see what I'm talking about. I will obviously have my link below if you're interested. And then I'm always open to setting up time to meet with people, to chat over Zoom, whatever that looks like, to get started on YNAB. But this is what the interface of YNAB looks like. So you can see all the categories I budget for and everything like that. And then on the bottom, it has a couple different tabs. So what I was just showing is my budget. It then has an accounts tab where you can see all the cards that you have linked, all your checkings and savings accounts, all your loans, all your assets, everything like that. It has a tab to add in a transaction when you spend money, and then it has a report and help tab. So help is obviously, they have tons of videos to watch. So like this video for me right now is not going to be on like how to use YNAB. It's on my story and questions that y'all have about budgeting and Q&A and stuff like that, but they do have a ton that you can watch. You can read articles, you can listen, and then they have support. But what is so cool to me is the reports tab. So based on like your net worth and your assets and what you have, it actually tells you specifically what that number is. And I think for me, that was my biggest realization of like how incredible it is that I started to use YNAB and that I still use it now. Because for example, in August 2020, so I guess yeah, it was 2020, my assets were at $13,000. So that includes your bank account, your Roth IRA, your car payment, your, all of those things build up to your assets. My assets now with everything is $123,000. So to be able to say I've grown my net worth, so to speak, by $120,000 in 3.5 years is wild. And that's not for me to be like, oh yeah, like I have all this money. It's just to goes to show that budgeting and being intentional with your spending, and the way YNAB does it, it doesn't feel restrictive. You're allocating a certain amount of money to a certain amount of your budget, and you're seeing where it's going, and you have flexibility to control where that money goes, if you need to change it, if you need to reallocate, anything like that. So I just think that that is a huge testament to the app in and of itself, and I couldn't be more proud of myself for being where I am right now. Also, there's a long way to go. Like, I want to buy a house, obviously I want to have a family, like I need to still continue to save and budget and stuff like that for those kinds of things. But just to say, if you don't know where to start, I can help you with that, but also just keeping an eye on what you're spending and looking at your accounts and everything like that. And really for some time, I think like 6 months, I was pretty much not spending a lot of money, like really being frugal on dining out, getting coffee out, stuff like that. Since then, now I know my budget and I obviously have wiggle room, and I feel like I can say, okay, I want to buy this and let me just reallocate money in my budget. So that is my story. That is my story with YNAB, and that is where I am today. But let's dive into the Q&A and I can answer those questions that y'all asked. Okay, so from Instagram and TikTok, I typed all of the questions on my iPad. So I'm gonna pull that up now. What's my story with budgeting? How did you get to where you are now? That is literally what I just answered. So I obviously already answered that one in depth, but that is my story. How do I start budgeting? Just graduated and no idea where to start. I think even first off saying like the fact that you're thinking about budgeting and you just graduated is amazing. I graduated in 2018 and didn't really start to fully have a good grasp on it until 2020, like I said. So it took me 2 years. I would say, of course, like depending on if you have a full-time or part-time job or what that looks like, just really looking into your true money. So like, what do you have? What assets do you have? Are you investing in a Roth or a 401k? Definitely prioritize that if you can. And then because that money really works for you, like the interest rates and it compounds and all of that stuff. So definitely start to contribute to a retirement fund if you're not already. And then with that being said, if you want to start budgeting and you don't want to use YNAB, or you do, you can use YNAB, the link down below. Or you can just track simply with like an Excel. I know a lot of people on like Etsy or places like that have pretty good Excel spreadsheets for those types of things. So it really just depends on how you want to do it. For me, I like YNAB because it has an app and I can also use it on the web as well. So I think that that's really good for it. But I would say for budgeting, just maybe spend a month looking at like what you spend. So you could print out your transactions, you could just look at it, total that up, like see what you spend on a monthly basis, see where you can potentially cut down, and then from there determine, you know, if you want to use an app or if you want to use an Excel tracking sheet, how to do it. But always open to talking about this and what that looks like. I just think it's a really good step that you're already thinking about that right after college too. So congratulate yourself, be proud of yourself for that, and then figure out, you know, the best way to budget for yourself, because it is different. I think a lot of the times YNAB works for people. Sometimes people don't want to use that, or they worry they have like a negative connotation with the word budgeting. I think of it as more so just allocating your money to specific purposes in your life. And that sort of brings me to the next question of, what do you find most people forget to budget for? This is actually my favorite thing that I do budget for that I feel like people don't, and it is your non-monthly expenses. So think like medical expenses, car expenses, credit card annual fees, Christmas, holidays, birthdays, all of those things that you don't pay for on a monthly basis, but you're still eventually gonna spend that money on. So car expenses, medical expenses, those don't come up a lot for me, but I'll put $50 to $100 in each of those categories every month. That way I know if something were to happen to either myself or my car, or if I just wanted to like get a car wash or something like that, I know I have that money in a category somewhere, as opposed to pulling from a different category or a different part of your budget. And then for annual fees, if you have a credit card, the annual fee can be anywhere from $95, especially if the first year is waived, you want to keep an eye on that, to like $5.95, or even, you know, there's really high credit card fees depending on what you have. But what I do in YNAB is you can set up a target so that every month you know, and it tells you, okay, if you need to save $250 for your credit card fee by X date, you have to allocate $32.34 each month to get there. If you don't have YNAB, you can use an Excel. You can just track that on yourself, you know, do the annual fee subtracted by 12 for the months of the year. But I think that's like the biggest thing that people forget to budget for. Same with Christmas. I allocate like $800 usually a year to spend on Christmas between Billy, my family, people in my life, my nephew, all of that. And it tells me each month what to put towards there. And then I know when Christmas comes, I already have that money saved. I don't have to worry about like, oh, it's Christmas time, I'm gonna spend so much money, because I already have saved that amount, if that makes sense. So I would say your non-monthly expenses are what most people forget. And it's what I love to budget for, because then when those times comes around, I don't feel as stressed out too. How do you know how much money to allocate towards fun money each month? So I have a category in my budget called extra spending, and that is basically my fun category. It's like, I have that one and activities, so that I guess they would kind of be the same. Usually for activities, I allocate like 100, and for extra spending, I allocate like 300 a month, to be honest. I also have a category for Target in my budget, but I would say the fun money, I allocate probably like 400 a month, but then it can change, you know, if I'm like, oh, for example, I just traded my Apple Watch and I got a new one, so that was like $300. And for me, that comes from like extra spending, and I definitely spend more than that already this month, and it is February 10th, you know. So I think just being mindful of how much you are spending in those fun categories, but also if you have enough in savings that you can like pull a little bit from for your fun money, I think that's fine. It's really up to you and like what you want to spend that money on. But I do think for me, my extra spending typically starts at like 300, and I probably end up spending 400 or so every month in that category. And that ranges for me. That ranges from something, like I said, at Target, that ranges from trading my Apple Watch, that ranges from going to Home Goods and getting like a candle or different things or books or stuff like that. To me, that's fun money. I don't do as many activities, but I would say if you are more into that, just take a look at what you typically spend on those things and then base that off of your fun money, and know that you can always pull from different categories in your budget or just shift your money around if you feel like a priority has changed or something like that. Explain your budget. What are your assets? What do you invest towards? How much do you contribute? So my assets are, I have a car. My car loan, I think, has like 12 grand still on it. I bought my car new in 2021. So I'm always paying off that monthly payment. I have a really low interest rate because I have USAA for my car. So that's really nice. I have a 401k with work. I contribute at least anywhere from 18 to 22% of my paycheck per month. On the lower end, it's 18%. If I feel like being a little bit more aggressive, it goes up to 22%. And I have that split between a 401k and a Roth. So I think 14% goes to the 401k right now, 4% goes to the Roth, just to be able to differentiate my assets there and make sure I'm looking at a couple different things. And then I have a Vanguard Roth IRA as well that I max out every month. So I think it's around like $550 every month. You max it out in April to around $6,000. So I max that out every year if I can. That way I know that I'm contributing to it. And the difference between a Roth IRA and a 401k, and I'm hoping I'm gonna get this right because sometimes I goof them up. Roth IRA goes in already taxed, so when you take it out, you don't have to pay tax on it. 401k goes in taxed when you take it out, or sorry, goes in not taxed. When you take it out, you have to pay tax on it. So it's nice to just have both. And then because I am younger, just being a little bit more aggressive in what I am investing in for both the 401k and Roth IRA, and just changing contributions every now and again. And then I also have a Robinhood account. So a Robinhood account is just like on my phone, and I honestly just throw in like $10 a month to invest there. I think I have around like $1,000 in that, and it's just fun for me to be able to like play around with it, see how the market is doing, pay attention to the stock market and stuff like that. So that's really easy. You can buy in a lot of different stocks, so like Tesla, Lululemon, Netflix, all of that, like different things. And I like to do it in companies that like I already know of, and just because I'm like, oh cool, like Lululemon stock is up, you know, I work there, so for me it's fun to be like, haha, ooh, their stock is up, let me throw $10 in there or whatever. So I just like that more, to have like more of a hands-on approach, whereas my 401k and Roth IRA, mostly do the work for you in your money. So those are my assets. That is how much I contribute. And then for investing, I just invest in my Robinhood, like I said, based on specific things that pique my interest or companies like I already know. I have to be tied to it in that way to invest, as opposed to just like a random thing. But another thing is I am thinking of getting a financial planner, someone to help me so that I can retire early instead of retiring at like 60. I would love to retire at like 50. Or maybe even younger if possible. People always ask me like why I have so many jobs, and I think I just love to have different streams of income coming in, knowing that, you know, like this week I don't get paid for my full-time job, but I might get paid for teaching yoga, or I might get paid for Lululemon, and always keeping track of that, knowing that something is coming in. So that's always super helpful for me as well. Other thing I was gonna say about 401k is my company matches my 401k really high, which is why I like to contribute a lot to that account. So keep an eye out and like look if you do have a 401k that your company matches. Look at that, because that could change your mind on like how much you want to put in there for when you want to retire. And especially if they have like any vesting schedule or anything like that, just look on your work should have like a benefits page, or benefits or HR, you can reach out to them about that just to see, because that's why I contribute so much, knowing that they're matching a certain percentage. That's really helpful to me, because my money is going to continue to make money and they will contribute it, even if like depending on how much I contribute, if that makes sense. My friend asked me just now, I was telling them that I'm filming this video, and I was like, yeah, you can be in it if you ask me a question about budgeting. And they said, what do I do if my friends want to go out to dinner and drinks all the time? Which I feel like is very common, and I'm lucky in the sense that I choose not to drink alcohol, so I don't spend my money on that. But I know that that can definitely creep up on you, especially if you're like getting a meal, going out to drinks, sitting down for a while. I think you don't want to cut out those things in your life that make you happy, but at some point, obviously, if you are going out to eat 2 to 3 times a week, you should definitely cut back on that. Maybe go out 1 time a week. Maybe try and see if your friends want to like go for a walk or do something where you can still connect without having to go out to eat or go out to dinner or drinks or whatever. I think that would be like my biggest piece of advice. I personally don't go out to dinner all that much. I was actually talking to my personal trainer about it, and last week I went out to dinner, or like had dinner out of the house 3 times, which is very abnormal for me. I usually do 0 or 1 time per week. So I think that's easier said than done for somebody, for me, who doesn't go out that much. Obviously, a lot of the times you want to connect with your friends, you're making plans to go out to eat, go out to dinner, go out for drinks. I think just like flipping the narrative of like, hey, instead, can we actually like go on a walk? Can we actually go get coffee? Coffee's gonna be more affordable. So just little tweaks that you can make, or even just being straight up with someone like, hey, I'm really actually trying to save money and budget this month. Can we do something else? I would love to see you. Just being clear with them on that is always super helpful, so I would recommend that as well. The next one, how much liquid cash should you keep on hand versus how much to invest in long-term assets? Obviously, this is dependent on you. For me, I would say the majority of the money I have is obviously invested in 401k or Roth IRA. But I think my #1 tip is make sure you have a checking and savings account that earns you interest. So for me, I can put the link below. I use SoFi. I love it. I think it is literally the best bank app out there, even better than like my Wells Fargo, even better than any of my credit card banks or like apps. It's just so intuitive, so easy to use. And the interest rate for SoFi, if you keep it in your savings account, is higher than your checking account, but you can easily transfer between the two. So for me, I keep majority of my liquid cash in my savings. It earns me 4.6% interest. So every month that is deposited into your account. So for example, my interest that I earned last month was like $25. So I earned $25 in that, and then for my checking, I barely keep anything in there, so I don't earn a lot, and checking is only 0.5%. But I would say like that account total, or SoFi, is earning me basically 5% on interest. And if you're using just like a standard Wells Fargo or Bank of America, I don't know if they do like APY interest, but definitely check and see. And if not, I recommend SoFi. I think it is a very intuitive app. It's really nice. You can like refer your friends, you get paid 2 days early, everything like that. So I would definitely recommend SoFi. This is like what it looks like at the top on the screen. You should be able to see, yeah, SoFi. And then I can go ahead and just link or put my link down here as well. I would say that is like one of my biggest recommendations for whatever liquid cash you do have, having a high yield savings account as well. A few more questions. So tips and tricks for budgeting at the grocery store. This is hard for me. I love grocery shopping, and it's hard because we have a Sprouts. I keep playing with my hair because it's wet. But it's hard because we have a Sprouts down the street. So oftentimes we will go to Sprouts, especially for like last minute things, or you know, we're making a recipe that night, we need to go there. But with inflation, I find it very hard. Sprouts is very expensive. I prefer to go to like Trader Joe's or Costco to buy in bulk. Those are like my two grocery stores. And then in Texas, we also have HEB, which is pretty inexpensive. So Sprouts is definitely not the number one. I would say go to grocery stores that are more affordable. So like Sprouts and Whole Foods are gonna be less so affordable. And then depending, I would say like your local grocery store, whatever that is for you. For us, it's HEB. For some, it might be like Stop and Shop or stuff like that. And then either like a Trader Joe's or Costco, Sam's Club, where you can find wholesale. I think that's like the first thing. And then I always do check specific sale items. So if there's like a buy one, get one off, buy one, get one, really just looking at that and being like, oh, okay, like, you know, these raspberries I want are buy one, get one. Instead of getting raspberries and blueberries, I'm just gonna get 2 things of raspberries. So certain things like that you can do. And then any like coupons, I will say I went to CVS and used my CVS coupons for the first time in a really long time and saved like 20 something dollars. It was crazy because the amount of extra bucks I have. So just keep an eye on those types of things. And then I think always buying, I mean, if you're really trying to, frozen vegetables or frozen foods are gonna be less expensive than fresh. It depends for what it is, but I typically prefer fresh. And then I think starting off like grocery shopping and making sure that you're buying the right ingredients for like the meals you're gonna cook so things don't go to waste. I would say that that's always something. And I think making sure you do have like a detailed list of what you need. At least for me, when I'm in a grocery store, I can go crazy and just like get a bunch of things. So making sure like you're sticking to the list or sticking to the meals that you said you were gonna purchase for that week. And then if you live with a significant other or roommate, like you can always go in on groceries together to keep that cost a little bit lower. Yeah, those would be like my biggest recommendations for budgeting at the grocery store. All right, last big question is how to switch budgeting from monthly paycheck to twice a month. So this is actually happening at my company. This was one of my coworkers that asked the question. We get paid every month on the 26th of every month, which is not that common. And they're changing it to getting paid every 2 weeks. I honestly haven't given much thought into how this is gonna change my budget, but now is the time to give that thought. I think if you're getting paid, which we will be, the same amount, then it shouldn't be that big of a deal, especially if you use like a budgeting app like YNAB or an Excel or something like that where you know exactly what you're getting. Because then if you're just using your bank account and you get paid twice a month versus like one all at once, it might be harder to like save for rent because you could have already spent that if you got paid earlier for those 2 weeks. So I think really trying to set a system of like, okay, now I get paid twice a month, not twice a week, twice a month instead of once per month. I would say allocate the money at least towards your biggest expenses. So think rent, like groceries, and try and split those in two. So if your rent, let's say, is $1,200, from your first paycheck, can you set aside $600, either in your savings or in your budget or whatever? Second paycheck, same thing. Kind of you have to think about more so of like everything coming out at once. Everything is gonna come out in different chunks, which honestly, I think in the long run is better. Definitely, I think is gonna be an adjustment at first. That would be my biggest recommendation for sure on that. Also, just like give yourself grace with that transition. It definitely is gonna be a little bit more difficult to be getting paid twice as opposed to once based on what you already are comfortable with and what you've already planned to budget for. But I would say like just give yourself grace the first 2 months and then reevaluate and see if there's anything that you need to change. But just making sure you have those money saved for your like big expenses that you have every month. And then the last two, not questions, or last three, my one friend, not a question, but just love you for showing me YNAB. I referred her to YNAB and SoFi as well. So she doesn't need to watch this video, but she's been using YNAB, her boyfriend uses YNAB, they try to get everyone on YNAB as well. So it's fun to see that that is infiltrating into like their friend group, their friends, the people they spend time with. And I had another friend reach out to me on Instagram saying she did it and was really good at it in the summer, but then kind of stopped a little bit and is back to using YNAB. And she said, basically, I don't feel stressed anymore with money. And that's the all-time goal, is creating a budget, creating a place that you feel that you don't feel stressed out when you're going to buy a coffee or treating your friend for a coffee or going out to dinner or whatever. Like, it doesn't feel stressful because you know your money is in a specific place and doing exactly what it's supposed to for you, as opposed to just checking your bank account and being like, oh yeah, I have $3,000. It's like, oh, actually I have 150 allocated for the rest of the month to dining out. Still, you can pay and you're good, but just being mindful of it there too. And my one friend did say, will you please give me some money? So maybe he will get lucky and he'll get a Venmo from me for coffee. But other than that, that is the end of the budgeting, the end of the finance, money related Q&A, and my story as well. Definitely very long-winded, very chatty vlog, but if y'all like this, I'm happy to do more similar. I can always show you how I budget, how to use YNAB too. If anyone does download it, you can always reach out to me on Instagram, comment down below, like this video, subscribe if you're new, turn on those post notification bells so you never miss a video. I appreciate you all. Thank you for the questions. I'm always happy to answer. I'm an open book when it comes to finances and money. I think it is so important and does not need to be taboo. Thank you again for watching, and I will see you in the next one. I love you all. Bye everyone.